what's really weird is the main thing that I have against the prequels is something. When I tell most people about it, it's they think it's one of the weirdest things I've ever heard, and but I think it's really important. Uh, what really rubbed me wrong about the prequels is the whole idea that the droid army and Count Dooku and all the people on their side were all somehow secretly working for Palpatine, the man who would become the Emperor. And that's just a childish, superstitious way of looking at how politics work. And and you just have to look at history. I mean, Osama bin Laden wasn't secretly working for George Bush. Hitler wasn't secretly working for FDR. Um, I'm sorry to disagree with all the conspiracy theorists out there, but there's just not true. And it really goes back to a real fundamental truth of philosophy and morality. And I think one of the biggest illustrations, C.S. Lewis had said something about it. I'll kind of paraphrase it in that good, a lot of people will do good things for good reasons. A lot of people do evil things for good reasons, but you very rarely find people that do evil things for evil reasons. And the thing is that most people don't go into doing evil things with evil intentions. And, it's just like the old phrase, the road to hell is paved with good intentions. Most people end up doing evil things because they have good intentions and they think that the ends justify the means. And I think there is something to be said for the argument that superpowers like the United States create their own enemies, but I don't think they create them intentionally. They create them through the unintended consequences of well-meaning but overreaching leaders that think that violence can solve every problem. And people say, well, why is that important? And it's important because a lot of people might think that, look, I could take all the power that Palpatine is after. I could do all the things that Palpatine does to get that power. Once I have that power, though, I'm going to use it for good. The problem is, if you start thinking that the ends justify the means, the ends are going to become the means. If you perpetrate evil, you're only going to achieve evil. You're not going to achieve good. The only way to do good is to actually do good. And you see, it's weird. I meet some people, you know, uh, when you meet communists, modern day communists, you're like, why would you ever think that communism was a good idea? I mean, just read the history of the Soviet Union, and they'll say things like, well, yeah, well, maybe maybe Stalin was a bad leader, but communism was a good idea. If we just had a better leader, it would have worked. And I'm like, no, the point of communism, the point of fascism, the point of any political institution that tries to achieve its goals through violence is that it's never going to work. The more you perpetrate evil, the more you're just going to create evil. And it's weird, I see this story. You see this story in so many movies that it's sometimes it's kind of depressing. And even, I mean, one of my favorite movies of all times is V for Vendetta. You know, I've watched that movie a million times. I could watch it a million more times. It's just one of the uh, one of the funnest, most moving movies I've ever seen. But there's still some things in it, that I'm just, when they reveal that the terrorist attack was actually uh, a government experiment that went wrong, and the government covered it up and then used it to frighten people, to take over the country. It's really, that's where I think that's one of the parts where the movie drops off, because you know one of the scariest things is if we get rid of Bush, well, I mean, we kind of have, but I mean, we get rid of somebody like Bush, we're still going to have someone out there like Bin Laden. They're not they're not they're not people that are necessarily rooted in the same source, that go to the same parties and talk to each other. They're not generals in Satan's army. You know, if there is something like Satan, you're not gonna it's not something here on earth. It's gonna be like a weird supernatural thing. Evil people don't necessarily all gather around and in the same rooms and are on the same side. And of course, I say that to some people, and they're like, well, he was a Sith Lord. Sith Lords can be uh, fantastic manipulators. So maybe they can do things that normal humans wouldn't be able to do, and that's where conspiracy theories, I mean, really belong, as they belong in the supernatural. They don't belong in the material world, and which is one of the reasons I think people like David Icke are actually uh, ahead of the curve, uh, when it comes to conspiracy theories, because he doesn't blame it on humans. He blames it on aliens or demons or whatever he says they are. And one of the things, if that's, if that was the point that Lucas was trying to make, I wish he just came out and said this, that this kind of conspiracy wouldn't make sense for normal humans, but humans with superpowers rooted in a supernatural power like the Force would make sense, and that's the only way that something like that could work. But one of the reasons, I mean, I don't like conspiracy theories is it's really a way for a lot of people with really with really drastic and even dangerous political views to kind of rewrite history. A lot of people, when Mel Gibson came out, when he got pulled over for drunk driving and starting spouting a bunch of anti-Semitic things, and they said, well, he's a Nazi. You see, that proves it. People were all saying, well, we knew he was like that when he made the Passion of the Christ. And I was thinking he might be like that when he made the movie Conspiracy Theory. And you just have to, and if you want to look at the other side, look at people like Oliver Stone, which are totally obsessed with conspiracy theories, and they're also obsessed with the communists. And it's a way for people with extreme and dangerous political views to rewrite history.